Welcome to America.
Tell me, why is an accomplished foreign architect shoveling coal here in Philadelphia?
I mean, I was actually asked to channel a completely made-up, influential architect.
These are yours, yes?
And Brady was sitting in front of the monitor, but tears were streaming down his face.
Did you know when you were making it, though, this is really gonna be something? Hi, I'm Paula Benson, founder and editor of Film and Furniture. Today on the Film and Furniture podcast, we delve into The Brutalist with production designer Judy Becker and set decorator Patricia Cuccia. The Brutalist tells the story of László Tóth, a fictional visionary architect and furniture designer who studied at the Bauhaus, survived the Holocaust in Hungary, and rebuilt his life in America. The film draws inspiration from the lives of influential post-war architects and designers like Marcel Breuer, who emigrated to the States after the war. Join us as we explore the remarkable architecture, interiors and furniture that bring this story to life. Judy and Patricia share how they overcame challenges to create this monumental film. Lovely, lovely to meet you both. Congratulations on The Brutalist. What an incredible film. So let's kind of talk about the background here. So László Tóth arrives from Hungary into America. He's a visionary architect and has survived the Holocaust and is really got this incredible vision, but I guess he's gone to the bottom of the pile again. And there are many architects and furniture designers that took a similar journey to that, Marcel Breuer being one of them. So would you talk to us about the architects and designers that you feel most fit this story, although it's definitely a fictional story? What was the reference for the architect and design side of this?
Well, I'd like to mention that one of the things that motivated Brady and Mona to write this script was that, in fact, there were no architects and designers that survived the camps like László. So he's completely fictional in that sense. And Marcel Breuer and Walter Gropius and others like that who had been at the Bauhaus left Germany and Hungary before the war. So they wanted to explore the idea of someone who did survive the camps and what kind of creativity and talent had been lost in the camps because of that. So it's almost a contrafactual exploration. So László is completely fictional in that sense. Brady and Mona were influenced by Breuer to a degree, and I know that I love Breuer, and I looked at some things about his work and his life for some aspects of László's work, especially the way he decorated his personal interiors. But other than that, I really tried to make him, in his design work, his very own person. You know, I really tried to design everything through his very unique experience for an architect, completely unique. I did a real method job of becoming László and trying to design in that way.
Well, I was thinking about that. I mean, basically what you were asked to do here was channel some of the most influential designers and architects that have ever walked the earth. That must have been a most incredible experience.
I mean, I was actually asked to channel a completely made-up influential architect, you know, so it's almost harder. László, there was nobody like him, you know, who was such an ardent brutalist. In a sense, I got to create him, and I tried to create him in a consistent developmental way, from like Bauhaus to sort of modern, just functional modernism through to brutalism. And it made sense to me for him and his psychology. I think it makes sense when you see him as a person too, because only someone that creative and strong and stubborn, in a sense, creatively stubborn, could have survived and gone on to create.
Did you know much about Bauhaus? Have you been to the Bauhaus in Germany? Or did you really have to immerse yourself in this entire sort of wisdom?
I was a little familiar with it, but I did have to immerse myself. I think I used Mies van der Rohe and his work studio and his way of working for what I was doing. His work table, that we found a picture of him at work, and Judy and I looked at that, and then we ended up doing a work table like that for him, not his drafting table, but just a table. He'd had some models on it, and it was also extremely minimal. So looking at that, we would have to find very few pieces, but it was also representing very good design that would interest László. Anything in his personal space, like, the contrast is the furniture showroom. When he goes in, he's just in awe of how ugly it is in his mind. I mean, he thinks it's terrible. Even though it was so popular, like colonial revival was very popular. That's why his cousin is making it. All of that colonial furniture from Toronto, I scavenged it from all over Ontario. Because the thing is that I could only find it on places like Facebook Marketplace, places where it was just regular people getting rid of things that they didn't want. I had to just dig around people. Usually they were working during the day, so I'd have to go late at night. And I had to talk my daughter to come with me and help me out.
I mean, we did so much ourselves, but that just shows it was like such a labor of love. It really was, because it was great.
The showroom is, to my taste, full of this sort of furniture, which is not very particularly attractive. It's very old fashioned. And there's this amazing aha moment where you see the shop front with the tubular steel chair and the tubular steel, all one piece of tubular steel that turns into a desk. Can you talk to us about that scene and designing that furniture? Because it really is like, here we go.
I mean, those structures, those shapes were super common at the time of the Bauhaus. And, we often think that one architect or designer designed that cantilevered chair, but many, many people were doing that chair. So I used that form because I thought at this time, he's just hasn't been out of the camps that long. He's a refugee, he has nothing. So not only is he materially depleted and physically emaciated, but creatively, he probably doesn't have that much to draw on right now. So he's going back to his early period, Bauhaus, and he's scavenging what's around him, And so tubular steel, he remembers, he makes those shapes and he takes those drawers and puts them in, makes a desk. I just wanted him to be motivated by something around him. Like I was really designing through László. It was important to me that there was some reason why he was doing one thing rather than another, because I just felt like he has to design furniture. He's got nothing, like where's his inspiration coming from? We had these great beach chairs that had the webbing on them, that they're like these American beach chairs that have canvas webbing. And I had him inspired by that webbing for the chaise in the library and then just the strapping on the chairs in the window. We had some problems getting it fabricated in a way that looked really sleek and good, I think it was our lead man who actually did it himself, and it ended up looking great. Like it was really nice, and we all wanted to take it home, but it pulled it off.
Yeah. So, I mean, you did pull it off because Van Buren's son sees the shop window. And is impressed enough by it and commissions Miller and Sons and László to create this incredible study in his father's house as a surprise. So the transformation of this study, it's very sort of dark, some heavy furniture, it's lots of red drapes. But interestingly, some tubular steel bookshelves, I noticed. So it's like he was already sort of interested in contemporary design before he had the remake over. So can you talk to us about the way the study was?
I had originally thought and pulled it reference for the study being kind of very traditional, gentleman's club, leather chairs, etc. But then when we had this location and I thought more about it, I thought, why don't we do it Art Deco? Because Harrison is a collector and he's interested in being fashionable. And to the son in the early 50s, that would look old fashioned. I showed Patty some reference for that. And I also thought, I did think practically, and I thought we can probably find that in Hungary, and Patty found some amazing stuff. I mean, there was a lot to choose from even, which was great. And we did design the shelves, right? It's funny because I wasn't thinking about the shelves and the furniture. I was just thinking there's a lot of chrome and lacquer and stuff in Art Deco furniture, and we needed to have shelves that looked Art Deco, which is pretty hard to find. So we ended up fabricating them.
Yeah, it must have been an interesting challenge, I think, to design something that looked great, but not as great.
Well, wasn't a challenge, just came easily. So. I'm kidding. It was a challenge. Yeah.
So we have a really light, airy transformation into this beautiful space, with the bookcases that seem to be on some joined hinge that when they all open together. I mean, that is such a beautiful moment when they open those bookcases and the one singular chaise sitting there in the middle with a book stand. Talk to us about the bookcases, the chair, the transformation.
Judy, who designed that? Was that Fairco or was that the special effects guy?
No, the special effects guy I wanted the shelves to open. Like it was in the script, there was a description of the shelves being installed, and when they install them, it opens up like a flower. So I had this idea that the cabinets could open all at once, and that would be a reference to that. And the special effects guy just installed like a trigger. So when you pushed it, they all opened. And that was the easiest thing to do. Like he just installed it and it worked. And I was like, wow, that's great. It was like no problems. Like it really just worked right away. But it was so important that it had to be the wood, the cases, the design, everything had to be perfect because it's so minimal and it's so hard to do. Minimalism is not easy. It's the hardest because there's nothing to hide behind. It's like seeing someone naked. You see everything. And so everything's got to be perfect. The wood, the construction, and that is really, really hard to do. Like I've spent a lot of time thinking about the cabinets are made of two pieces of wood because it's very high ceilings and they don't make planks of wood that long, at least not in Hungary. So we had to seam it, and then big decision about how to seam it because we were going to see whatever method we used. And that's the kind of thing that is really time consuming and has to be done really well. So simple is always deceptively simple.
And I guess this is the true meaning of brutalism, right? Which is it's about the honesty of materials. It's not a style. It's not a look. It's not an aesthetic. It's about showing materials in their raw form, isn't it, really?
Partly, yeah. I mean, I think that's a big part of it. And I think the other part of it is being without historical reference, so it is materials, but it's also materials on their own, without decorative elements, without columns, without little doodads, and I mean, and László is a brutalist to the extreme.
And I think we forget, don't we, that these were all new materials: plywood, tubular steel, concrete, not really being used. So
but then the way it was used, yeah.
Wood, like the lumber there is twice as much.
It was awful. Yeah. So they used to get it from Ukraine or Russia, and it's embargoed now. So those were the most expensive pieces, the plywood pieces.
So it was a conservatory, I believe, wasn't it, where you recreated the study, and you have this skylight. Was there, which obviously has a dramatic end in the film? So was there a skylight there already, or that multicolored stained glass effect? You created that?
No, we created two different skylights. One was the effect of the stained glass, and one was a kind of tiered dome, like more modern, almost Art Deco in a sense, but it wasn't. That's what we did for László's, like a circle of glass that was set up, and we built a version of that's in the library when you see the cabinets, and then another version that we shot outside so the camera could actually look up and see the sky. So that was a cheat, wonderful thing you can do in film and not in reality.
Actually, Van Buren hates it to begin with, right? He really doesn't like it. He orders them out of his house. But then I guess his ego is perhaps stroked a little bit after this article in a magazine. What's it called? A Millionaire and His Moderns, the article was called, in this magazine, which is about him, his tycoon, his grand lifestyle, and him being very innovative and looking forward and commissioning this incredible study. So he's thinking, oh, hang on a minute. So he commissions Toth to create the most incredible building. And this is where my kind of mind blows a little bit, is that basically you were being asked to create a most monumental, game-changing, visionary building for the screen.
Yeah, I know.
And at what stage, Judy, did you go, I can do this? Or,
I mean, Brady asked me to do it right away. Like after I got hired, he said, we're not going to build the Institute, obviously, but we are going to build parts of it. And we talked about that a lot. And can you design the Institute so that we can figure out what parts of it we're going to build? So I was like, okay. And then I did start making like a kind of mood board, and then it's not literally a mood board, but pulling images, and I just started to work it out. And through like the architecture of concentration camps and religious symbolism, and all the ideas just started to come together. And he has an architect friend named Griffin Frazen, who is an architect and has a lot of software and is good at that. Griffin input all my design into a 3D software program. And so we have beautiful illustrations of the building. And then we showed that to the producers, so they can see it looking nice and not like a pathetic pencil drawing like I do. So, and they loved it. So that was the Institute. That's how the Institute was born. And honestly, it changed in detail, but not in concept since that time. Like, we tried a lot of variations once I had a crew and set designers, but I didn't like any of them. So we just went back to the original one. So it really just more or less stayed the same. Like, I got more creative with it as time went on, so that it got to the point where I wished we could really build it, because I think that it was a kind of great design in the sense that it had a very experiential aspect to it that nobody knew about except László. Like, Van Buren didn't know. Like, that when you entered the building, it led to complete claustrophobia. So you felt like you were being imprisoned. And that was an incorporation of the concentration camps. He didn't tell Van Buren that, and then when you got to the chapel, it opened up, and it was as Van Buren wanted, except maybe for that upside down reflection of the cross on the ceiling that no one knew. I didn't know about it. It wasn't in the script. I didn't know about it until I ever saw the movie, which was amazing. Then when you leave the Institute, it opens up, and it's this really, really steep staircase. But when you get to the top, you're free. I'm not being flippant when I say I felt like it would be a not bad design for a Holocaust memorial museum, because it incorporated almost in a visceral way a lot of experience in that sense. So, but a lot of that came as I was working out the details later, not for the basic structure of the building. I mean, the Institute doesn't have windows, it's like, it is concrete. I love that kind of building, and it's pretty rare. You don't see, if you see buildings like that, they're usually a utilities building, hiding like a ton of like electrical, infrastructure or something.
The Brutalist features some stunning post-war international-style furniture designed specifically for the film, influenced by icons like Marcel Breuer, who designed masterpieces like the Wassily lounge chair and the Saskia chair, both still in production today. As an apprentice at the Bauhaus, Breuer created the Wassily lounge chair inspired by the frame of a bicycle. With its bold lines and innovative use of materials, it's a striking piece that offers both visual impact and comfort. The Saskia chair, designed in 1928 and named after Breuer's daughter Francesca, blends traditional craftsmanship with industrial techniques. And while the cane woven version is perhaps more well known, it also comes in a leather version with fully upholstered seat and back. Discover these iconic pieces, as well as hundreds of other furniture and decor featured in film and TV, in our marketplace at filmandfurniture.com. You can find the links in the episode description below. This incredible building, and the magic of movies, it was mainly models. And I've seen this beautiful picture of these steps with all the detail of the texture on it. And then I realized it was actually just a model. Model making is a whole other skill, right?
I mean, the Institute, as it was represented in the movie, was a bunch of different things. So it was a model, a great model that was, treated to look like concrete, and it had an interior and exterior. And when you see the Institute up on the hill, for example, and there's a time-lapse thing, that's the model, in-camera model, very influenced by a picture of when they were shooting Star Wars. And we saw like a picture of them filming this model in the desert. It was great. And then there was things that we built on site that on the construction site. So when you see them walking around the construction site and coming out of a quarry, and there's some steps there too, that was all real, that we built that as pieces of a building. And then there were locations that we shot as pieces of the Institute. And a lot of scouting. I did a lot of scouting, so did everybody, but I did some on my own for buildings that could pass as pieces of the Institute. In very small ways, sometimes I had to change the design of the Institute to, conform to one of the locations. So that the chapel, for example, where you see the cross falling on the altar, that was a location. The water at the end where they walk through looking for, that was the Budapest Reservoir, the drinking water, yes, but they empty it after you shoot there. I mean, you don't drink that water. No one drinks that water that someone walks through. I'm really happy with the way it came out because you can't really tell, I think. Kind of genius, I think, the way Brady did it. So,
where was it filmed? The site of the Institute?
Near Budapest, not
On the
like not
outskirts.
far, and it was a big double hilltop, so you had to walk up, and then there was another hill. Van Buren brings everybody up to the top of the hill to say, "This is where I'm going to." It was all everything about the building of the Institute was shot on these hills, and it was really cool because the first time, well, not just the first, but many times when we went there would be shepherds with flocks of sheep and staffs, like leading their sheep up the hill. So it really felt like you were in like the deep country, and there aren't a lot of big like spaces like that where you could create a construction site. So it was really fortunate, I think, that we found some of these big locations that we used a lot because they were so important for the movie.
So, I mean, such a monumental building, a monumental moment in the film. But there's another room actually that really caught my attention. And Patty, maybe this is something that you could talk us through, is where there's a meeting with Van Buren's son and a finance advisor or the accountant, and they're talking about how much money they can raise and they've got to cut back. And it's this beautiful room where there's a big, beautiful desk with chrome feet. And then I think there's, I can't remember the name of those cabinets, the black ones with chrome surrounds. And I think
That was one of the floors of that school.
That medical university.
Yeah, the medical university. And it was
which
just,
I've now seen in a million movies, by the way.
but if you the thing was it was a double duty. So on the main floor of that space, we shot that office. But if you looked up, it was up and like there was a hole looking up, and that was the architect's office up above. So we doubled it up.
And and the entrance too, when he walks in to go up to the architect's office.
And it was a great,
But
really beautiful location. And
but that was one of the few places where we really did like mid-century modern, like full on. And you found all that stuff in Hungary.
Yeah. And they did have, we found the desk, and it was we found all of that furniture was in some of their, I think that was the modern store that I was talking about, that they had that. And then also some prop houses did have a few pieces. Often you would literally find one of the thing that you wanted, and it'd be like, oh my God, they have it, but they only have one and they don't have any versions of it even close. They have this. And so it would be really important that we would make sure that was on hold for us, because it was really, really, really challenging. The modern furniture designed in the Soviet countries at the time, or that has the Soviet influence, and also just was different design. They had it just looks different, so you can't fake it very well.
And it was interesting because in that same building, that same location, which is used a lot in Hungary, but we didn't know it at the time, you have an outside plaza, and then he walks through the lobby and goes upstairs and goes to visit László at the architect's firm. We wanted to dress the outside little area with Bertoya chairs, Bertoya side chairs, because it's supposed to be in New York, and there's a lot of sort of outdoor seating areas with those chairs, like tons of them, like all over the city. And were there any in Budapest, Patty?
No.
Yeah.
None.
Interesting.
There was
none.
They were in Berlin. We could have ordered them. We just couldn't find them there. There wasn't a collector or anybody that had it. We would have had to order reproductions from Berlin, and a lot of the thing was just timing.
So I wanted to ask, was there anything while you were making this film that you really had to put your foot down and say, we have to have this?
There was a few things. Judy, remember when we had to really fight to be able to build the sofa?
Yes, I was going to say the plywood. The
Yeah.
plywood was the thing. Isn't that insane? Yeah, there were these moments like, was it the extra piece of plywood for the couch? And then every little scrap we would use for something, like if there was an extra piece like this big, we would make a side table out of it. So,
Well, first of all, the first thing that I had to put my foot down was that container because
yeah.
they did not have the furniture that we needed there.
And it was so important this furniture look American, and this was something that we thought of. It wasn't in the script, but it was so important for the store to look, especially because we were shooting in Hungary. So to make the store look super American.
I mean, it's quite interesting, isn't it? You're talking about, not being able to source the quality of materials you want, the issues with budget. Brady Corbet had a lot of problems and a long time getting this film off the ground. So it was a labor and love from a director's point of view, a labor and love from a production designer and set decorator's point of view, a labor of love from the character's point of view, trying to push through all these difficult situations. So you've all really put yourself through the ringer, I think, a bit on this film. Did you know when you were making it, though, this is really going to be something? Or is it all taking you by surprise?
I thought it was going to be a great movie. I didn't know if other people would all, I didn't know it would get the kind of response it does. So the fact that everyone is responding the way they are is just so rewarding. It's so rewarding. And I'm really so gratified by it.
Working on something that was shot on film was just so wonderful. Because when I started, everything was on film. And then there was this whole movement to the digital. And as Brady pointed out, how important it was for him to make it really feel like the time to use those cameras. Digital's really, it really focuses on details. So for instance, if we were heating a fabric that wasn't quite as expensive as we wanted it to look, film is going to be, it's going to forgive it a little bit more. So that helped a lot for sure. There was such a commitment and it was a great script. One time I think twice I walked up to the monitor and Brady was sitting in front of the monitor with his earphones on but tears were streaming down his face as he watched the performance.
Oh my God.
I mean, the performances were beautiful and the sets felt so real and so perfect that, there was definitely a sense that it could be something really great. And it's turned out to be, that is what it is. And it's really, really exciting.
Well, I think you picked a winner. And I think the reason it is a winner is a very large part to obviously the production design and set decoration, because I mean, these are the real heroes second to the characters in this film. And they tell so many hidden stories. So congratulations on creating, I mean, it's epic, really is. I've just got one last question I'd like to ask people, which is, if you had to take something home from the set for your own home, what would it be?
I think I would take one of those Art Deco chairs that we put in Van Buren's mansion. But then there was also the sculpture that you designed.
Yeah. You like those?
Really, I love those.
Yeah,
They were really great too. I mean, the thing is, when you're working so far from home, you can't take anything unless it's really small.
I know.
Judy sent me a clock that was really beautiful. I love that clock. I have it on my mantle at home.
I do love the chaise that we made that was in the library, but I would probably take this plywood table and chairs that we also made. But there were a lot of things I wanted. So
yeah, that would make sense if you spent so much time choosing the right plywood. You want something that embodies.
I'd take all those cinder blocks that we. I was just kidding. We used a lot of cinder blocks as tables too. That was copied from Marcel Breuer.
Well, it's been absolutely incredible talking with you. Thank you so much for sharing all these insights. It's really, really fascinating.
Thank you.
Good luck with the noms.
Thank you. God, I'm so superstitious. Bye. Bye, Patty. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks. Bye. I hope you enjoyed that insightful chat. You can take a look at our in-depth feature as well, with lots of film set images at filmandfurniture.com, where you'll find many fascinating articles on interiors, furniture, decor and lighting in film, as well as where to find these items for your own home. That's all in our marketplace. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you next time.